A high-end international terminal hums with activity as a composed black woman in her 30s, Makena, approaches the first-class gate. She walks with quiet confidence, dressed in smart, understated clothing, simple slacks, a neat blouse, polished shoes, and her natural curls tied back. She isn't trying to stand out, just arriving as herself. With a leather laptop bag on her shoulder and a soft smile on her face, she hands over her boarding pass. Just as she's cleared, the pilot of the flight approaches the gate. His eyes scan Makena's face, then her outfit, then back to the screen. He pauses deliberately and with a smirk, leans slightly toward the gate agent. "Are you sure she's in the right section?" he asks, clearly intending for Makena to hear. "First class isn't exactly budget-friendly." Makena blinks, keeping her calm. She gently replies, "I'm in 2A. That's what my ticket says." The pilot snorts a soft laugh. "I've seen this before. People get lost in the terminal of dreams," he says, walking off with an air of smug dismissal. And around her, a few passengers stiffen. One woman looks away, ashamed to be witnessing this. A flight attendant offers a quiet, uncomfortable apology as Makena walks down the jet bridge. She finds her seat and gently places her bag above her. The weight of the stairs still lingers. She takes her place, straightens her back, and stares ahead, unmoved but quietly wounded. A voice rises in the background like an echo, calm but powerful. "They saw my skin, not my seat." But what they didn't know is who was watching. Makena's mind drifts as the plane begins to board around her. Her journey didn't start in a luxury terminal. It began in the noisy, sun-soaked streets of Nairobi. She was the daughter of a widowed teacher and the eldest of 4 siblings. Every textbook she touched came secondhand, every uniform patched and passed down. But her mind was sharp. She earned a scholarship to a top university abroad and graduated top of her class in computer science. Over the years, she became a quiet force in global cybersecurity. Behind the scenes, she thwarted attacks on banking systems, airport databases, and government firewalls. Her name wasn't splashed across headlines, but within her industry, it carried weight. This flight wasn't just transportation, it was her victory lap. She had been invited to deliver the keynote address at the Global Cybersecurity Leadership Summit in London. A room full of CEOs, tech pioneers, and world leaders would be listening to her. It was the first time she had allowed herself the luxury of a first-class ticket, a small act of celebration. Her husband had smiled proudly as she booked it, saying, "You've protected the world. Let the world serve you once." There were no Instagram posts, no flashy announcements, just quiet gratitude. But even in her success, Makena had learned. Her skin often entered the room before her resume. She'd been mistaken for hotel staff, assistants, catering crew, every role but the one she earned. Today, she thought things might be different. Then the pilot spoke, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. Makena tries to settle into her seat in 2A. She places her bag beneath her feet, buckles in, and takes a quiet sip of water handed to her by the flight attendant. Her mind starts to shift back to her keynote presentation, running through slides in her head. But just as she's finding calm, she hears footsteps approaching again. The pilot reappears, this time holding a printed passenger manifest. Without looking her in the eye, he says, "Just doing a quick double check on first-class assignments. We've had imposters before." His tone is casual, almost performative, but the words cut deep. Across from her in 2C, an older white man lowers his newspaper, raising an eyebrow. Makena blinks. "Excuse me?" The pilot doesn't flinch. "I'll need to see a government-issued ID. Just protocol." Makena pauses. Her boarding pass is clearly marked. She's already gone through security, through facial scan, and been cleared by the crew. Still, she opens her bag slowly and hands over her passport and boarding pass. The flight attendant moves closer, voice lowered but firm. "Sir, she's already cleared. Her boarding credentials are valid." The pilot lifts a hand to silence her. "It's my duty to ensure the flight's integrity." Makena exhales, holding his gaze. She speaks clearly, not loudly. "And I'm responsible for the integrity of global banks." Funny how respect doesn't board the plane with your rank. A few rows behind her, someone mutters, "Wow." The air turns sharp. The pilot pauses. clearly uncomfortable, but says nothing more. Makena retrieves her documents and places them calmly back in her bag. Whispers ripple through the cabin. Tension brews, thick, unspoken, and undeniable. Just as the cabin settles into an uneasy silence, the flight crew at the front suddenly stiffens. A final passenger steps onto the aircraft. A tall black man in his late 40s, commanding in presence, wearing a crisp military uniform adorned with medals and insignia. His boots are polished, his posture unshakable. The pilot, standing just a few feet from Makena, straightens like a schoolboy. He salutes instantly, voice clipped and deferential. "Colonel Iodell, sir. Welcome aboard." Gasps rise from several passengers. Heads turn, eyes widen. Makena rises slowly from her seat. "Hi, love," she says calmly. "You're late." The colonel's face softens. He walks directly to her, cups her hand gently, and kisses her forehead with quiet familiarity. He then turns to the pilot, whose face now drains of color. Colonel Iodell's tone remains calm, but there's steel beneath the surface. "Is this man giving you trouble again?" The word again hangs in the air like thunder. Makena doesn't respond. She doesn't have to. The colonel turns to the head steward nearby. "Make a note of this incident and add it to the previous report. I'll be following up with airline command once we land." The pilot fumbles, suddenly unsure of his voice. "Sir, I didn't realize she was with you." Colonel Iodell cuts him off with a cold, quiet truth. "Number you saw everything, except the truth." The cabin sits in stunned silence. In that moment, power shifts, not with volume, but with presence. Somewhere near row 3, a young passenger had witnessed it all. The pilot's condescension, the unnecessary ID check, and the dramatic entrance of Colonel Iodell. Quietly, they recorded the entire exchange on their phone, barely moving. The video is clear, raw, and unedited. Mid-flight, thanks to the airline's premium Wi-Fi, the clip is uploaded to social media with the caption, "Pilot humiliates black woman in first class, then her husband shows up." It catches fire instantly. By the time the plane begins its descent, the video has already hit 2 million views. Comments explode. Hashtags begin to trend. Near "Fly with respect," where Makena was seated, when our seat is not a skin tone influencers repost. News anchors pick it up. A well-known civil rights attorney tweets a call for airline reform. Celebrities quote Makena's one-liner back at the pilot, "You saw everything, except the truth." As the aircraft pulls into the terminal, the airline's PR team is already in position. An assistant manager holds a bouquet. A velvet rope and a red carpet-style path have been laid from the gate door. Makena sees it from the jet bridge and walks directly past it without slowing down. Reporters swarm, one thrusting a mic forward. "Makena, do you have anything to say about what happened on this flight?" She doesn't break stride. "I don't need an apology," she says softly. "I want a policy." And with that, she disappears into the arriving crowd, leaving behind a global conversation. Back home, the headlines don't just focus on the viral clip, they dig deeper. News anchors across major networks begin profiling the man who stood beside Makena on that flight, Colonel Iodell. He's not just a decorated officer, he's recently been appointed as the head of international aviation ethics under a United Nations-backed initiative, a role focused on reforming global air travel standards, including racial profiling, passenger rights, and staff accountability. Reporters uncover that both Iodell and Makena have been quietly working behind the scenes on a joint initiative. Makena's expertise in cybersecurity and his influence in aviation leadership had already led them to consult on AI-based anti-bias tools meant for airlines and airport security systems. And then the real twist: this wasn't the first complaint about that pilot. Several flight attendants had submitted anonymous HR reports citing racially biased behavior, but the airline had failed to act. Now, with a global spotlight on them, they couldn't hide it any longer. Colonel Iodell issues a calm, scathing public statement. "Discipline doesn't wear a color, but arrogance does, and it's time we grounded it. For good." Meanwhile, Makena arrives at the Global Cybersecurity Summit to deliver her keynote. Word spreads through the auditorium. Cameras click, phones go up. She doesn't mention the incident. Instead, she speaks about trust, systems, and the unseen hands that protect people every day. By the end, the audience rises in a standing ovation, not for what happened to her, but for how she carried it, with quiet strength, with grace. In the days that follow, the airline issues a formal statement. The pilot involved has been suspended pending a full investigation. Internal reviews reveal a pattern of complaints previously ignored. Public pressure, amplified by the viral video and the colonel's statement, forces the airline into action. A sweeping reform package is announced. Mandatory anti-bias training for all flight personnel, and the creation of diversity accountability officers to be present on international flights. The airline commits to auditing past internal bias reports and revisiting cases that were previously dismissed. Makena is invited to consult on the reforms. She politely declines. Her voice is steady, yet kind. Hire someone younger. A girl who looks like I did when I boarded my first plane. Let her lead. Let her be seen. Instead, Makena quietly funds the launch of a scholarship program for young Black women pursuing careers in aviation and technology. She names it the Sky Seat Fund, in honor of those who were always worthy, but never welcomed. Inspired by her story, several major airlines partner with international organizations to launch a global awareness initiative titled Don't Assume, Ask, aimed at dismantling unconscious bias in the skies. Makena is later honored with a prestigious global award for digital and social integrity, recognizing not just her technical brilliance, but her dignity in the face of humiliation. In a rare interview, she sums it all up with a smile. They questioned my seat, so I built my own aircraft. At a bustling airport years later, Makena and Colonel Odell stand near the departure gate, watching a confident young Black girl hand over her boarding pass. She's dressed in a fresh blazer, holding a tablet, headed for her first international tech internship, funded by Makena's scholarship. Just before stepping onto the jet bridge, the girl turns, beams, and waves. "Thank you, Auntie Makena." Makena waves back, her eyes soft with pride, her spirit at peace. As the plane lifts into the sky, her voice echoes, "He thought I couldn't afford the seat. But what I carry isn't bought, it's built. And when you build with dignity, no turbulence can shake your altitude."